Well, it seems like it was just 1 year ago that I sat here with this cast of characters, with the exception of Shox, who's here.
She
instead of
changed.
Spawn, yes. You have to bring the mic up a little.
Sorry,
bit.
she changed.
Yeah, I
is
know
what
you
I'm
guys.
trying to
You're
say.
used to having off, but we're going to talk about Worlds groups with, of course, my wonderful cast of friends here, Jatt, Deficio, and Spawn. So you just did the drawing. How was the show?
It was good. This is now our third version of the analysis. We did the analysis right after the show. We did a Facebook Live. Now we get to talk to you. So.
Okay. Well, the great news is I only care about the West, and so whatever conversations you guys were having, yeah. What you're still, yeah, Australia.
That's
right?
a bit spicy. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, we didn't make it, Travis. Thank you for putting that
Yeah,
out.
yeah,
We got
exactly.
knocked out at wildcard stage, but.
Yeah, how do you think Australia's going to do at Worlds?
Well, I actually thought we were going to make it this year, in all seriousness. We sent the Chiefs to wildcard. They were completely dominant domestically.
Yeah.
Then they opened up a couple of Nexuses and still lost the game. So you know what? That team's gone. They're buried. Like, leave them all in down south a little bit. And I think the West actually bought some good teams this time around. I really like TSM. I really like, I like Cloud9.
G2.
I actually do like G2. You made me a fan of them a couple of months ago. So I think the West bought some really nice teams here.
Yeah.
This is actually a phenomenon, I feel like, when Deficio comes into the office, is he's like, yeah, G2. Like, before he comes, everyone's like, G2, not looking very good. They don't have any synergy. Yeah, they have good players. And then Deficio's like, he just continues to talk to people like, yeah, they're probably like top 5. Yeah. They're going to definitely
As
get
long as I
groups.
keep repeating the same thing, these people here with like a fairly weak backbone as well,
Sure.
you know, they kind of go like,
You just brainwash
yeah, I
them.
guess you're right because you said it 5 times, so you must be right. And
Speaking of which, these two and Kobe were just watching a bunch of RNG playoff games yesterday, and like I have RNG like top 5 at Worlds, and these guys are like, nah, they're terrible.
Yeah, no, I was just talking to them.
I'm gonna stand strong.
I was just talking to them before this because, I mean, I guess we can dive in now. One of my questions was just how much trouble is TSM in that group, and both of them were saying RNG probably not that good. You disagree?
Well, I think RNG is very good. I actually have TSM and RNG very close together. I think RNG played bad in the playoffs, but I just think the individual skill of every single one of those players, even though it's shown up at like different moments this year, if the right boot camp and the right motivation hits, I feel like they're going to be amazing. I think it's TSM RNG out of that group.
How can you say that G2 have 5 strong individual players but aren't a good team and be like, but RNG, these 5 strong individual players, they're going to be great when they come together. I think that Xiaohu's in a massive slump
G2
right now.
has 3 strong
So
individual players.
I'm going to count
RNG has
backwards as
5.
well. So Xiaohu's in a massive slump right now, so he's not playing well. And I think that Looper gets the least attention and least gold out of any top laner. I'd have to check that again. But as I said, in the LPL, he gets less than Mako, who's a support, and very similar to Road, who's also a support. So I think that realistically, RNG right now play the game with 3 players.
I think the problem for me with RNG is
I'm ready to respond.
No,
Queuing
we're
up
going
the
to delay a
mic.
little bit. I think the problem is, first of all, they don't adapt really. All split long, like legit, the entire split from week 1 has been camp bot lane, let's go bot lane again, because Uzi's down there calling for help. MLXG will ignore winning matchups on the map to be like, bot lane needs me, and he rushes bot lane again, and they go over aggressive for dives. So I think just they didn't adapt in the series and playoffs at all. They keep going for bot lane. If Uzi doesn't carry the game, honestly, they don't win, and that's a big problem for them. You can't just play on one lane.
Yeah, I mean, you listen to these guys talk over and over again, you're like, yeah, maybe Mata and Uzi aren't that good. Yeah, maybe MLXG doesn't have good ganking pass. But I think all these things are still true. I think they're an incredibly strong team, and I agree that their team play has been bad, and maybe their coaching has been bad, and maybe their motivation has been bad. And that comes when you have players like Uzi and Mata who are like so just, you're the best, told to them over and over again. But I think for Worlds, they're going to rise to the occasion. They're going to get better. Yeah.
Well, I like to have my content always appeal to my audience, and in this situation, I feel like half the people watching this video, we've been kind of dancing around it, are going to be wondering, how is TSM going to do? What chances do they have at Worlds? Can TSM win Worlds? Please tell me all about TSM. So why don't we just dive into that with TSM Jatt? You can give us a breakdown of how TSM's going to do.
Well, maybe I could defer to their expertise and say RNG is a bad team, so TSM's easily out of the group, right? No, but actually, I think TSM, I was a little bit worried about them. I think it's a little bit more worrisome when they're in a group with Chinese and Korean teams for obvious reasons, but I still think they're the favorite in the group. I think their practice is going to go well. I don't think they have any motivation problems. Bjergsen is top 2 mid laner at the tournament, I feel like. I'm a little worried about Hanser in the top lane. I think Doublet and Biofrost are going to be solid. It doesn't seem like they necessarily get affected too much by nerves, and I think they're solidly into the quarterfinals, but it's a tough group and probably the second worst they could have hoped for. Switch SKT with Samsung, and it's the worst possible group.
Don't you see those leaked scrims, though? Look how good they are at SKT. Obviously,
They
they're going to win
lost.
the whole thing, right?
The leaked scrims. I actually watched like 5 minutes of one of the games. I wanted to see the last team fight where they all died to Azir, but that's all I saw.
Okay, well, Listen, it's going to be great, I'm sure, right? I'm sure. TSM's going to be fine. Everything's going to be good. Let's also talk about something that I found hilarious, and I know Kobe referenced this on the broadcast, your reaction to this, Deficio. So G2, who cost their region first group spot,
Well deserved.
or first seed spot, end up right underneath Rocks Tigers. Can you go into sort of your reaction to that whole thing?
So when it happened, I actually turned around and got really angry just when I saw G2 got drawn first in the second pool, because that's like the worst team you can possibly play. But then when I saw CLG and Albus, I'm like, actually, this is a pretty good group now for G2. Yeah. Also, I saw some of the players tweet out, like Perks was already calling for vacation when he saw the Tigers. And then to see CLG and Albus, and like, actually, never mind, they're now favorites to get out of group. And I guess it is a bonus. You don't get to face Tigers in potential playoffs. Problem is, you'll still get to play like SKT, EDG, or like TSM or Samsung. So it's not going to be easy, but I think they're going to make it out of groups, which is all we can ask for, I feel, after a very weird European split. If H2K makes it out as well, fantastic. That's the best Europe can hope for, honestly.
Is CLG really that much of a rollover? Is it just not going to happen?
I'm going to give it to Spawn. Yeah, Spawn. I think CLG is definitely an underdog in that group.
I think that I've done this before with CLG and been made to pay for it, especially at MSI. So I have a lot of faith in certain aspects of CLG's game. And I also think that, with the shakeup that's about to come into the mid lane, that in the past, CLG have shown that they're actually pretty quick to jump on new picks, like Aurelion Sol at MSI. And if Aurelion Sol comes back, that gives Huhi an out, in my opinion. So, it's all about Afromu and the leadership that he can bring in Stix A and the late game coordination that they can find, because I do agree that G2, they do have, in my opinion, like a better early game and they're going to get off to that start. But as this game progresses and it comes down to the nitty gritty, we've seen, especially if like G2 have a bad game against Rocks, they're an emotional team, Deficio, I think I'm going to call them, and like anything can happen after that point.
Yeah. Now, one of the interesting things you guys just mentioned, that you had done so much analysis around these groups, but the bigger storylines I think that always emerge out of Worlds are how well each of the regions are doing. Is NA sucking this year? Is NA good? Is like China letting everybody down? Is Korea dominating again? Do you have any expectations around any surprises for the regions themselves? Any expectations around China as a whole and how well they might perform at Worlds? Anything along those lines?
If I start with Europe, I actually think Europe can only surprise at Worlds. Their community idea or perception of Europe right now, this split has been weak, honestly. I think you can definitely make a case for it. The fact that like Fnatic, Origin, H2K, Vitality, all these teams kind of struggle for almost the entire split definitely hurts you when all your top teams, except for G2, basically struggles. And then like new teams like Splice shows up and manage to qualify because they work super hard, which is fantastic to watch, but doesn't make our region stronger overall. So I actually think we come in with very, very few expectations. I think people will look at G2 and say these guys should make it out of groups, but they wouldn't be surprised if any other team just played okay but didn't make it out. So I think Europe can actually surprise quite a bit, mainly with H2K versus AHQ, and I think Spice can actually also, they can take a game or two in their group, because they're actually a very underrated team.
We should say, by the way, the reason everyone is looking in that direction right past the cameras, there's a giant TV over there with the groups on it. So, all right, so outside of EU, I don't know, China?
So China in the past, I guess, have not done great at some international tournaments recently. I think like last year Worlds, like let's not beat around it, dropping our best team that went into that. I mean, EDG were consistently the best team, even though LGD came out like a supernova. They were a big bright star that burned and faded real quickly in the end. So I think that like EDG being back at the top is good for China. It gives Chinese fans a little bit of hope for the LPL. They had such a dominant split, but the worst thing that can happen now is if they don't perform, because if you go undefeated, absolutely crush the team that went to MSI and were the top team out of groups, and then you fade away, like the Chinese LPL is in a little bit of trouble from there. In saying that, this year, I've tempered my expectation. I think that, EDG, they are a great team. I really do like how they play the map. I think that even some of their macro issues have improved. They haven't gone away. There's still some big holes in their gameplay. And I think that IMA in Group B will surprise. I said, I think that Cloud9 can get out over the top of them. I'm really back and forward on that one. I think that IMA is a team that can definitely make waves because their star player is their support. And that is so unique to have the big playmaker being Road for that team. And I don't think anyone in the community knows about this guy. And when they see what he does on Tahm Kench and Bard, they're going to be like amazed that you can have this much influence over the game globally, not just in your lane, as a support player. He really is fantastic.
Do you want to tackle the Southeast Asia teams while you're at it?
Yeah, I can jump on LMS as well because I've been in the past a huge fan of the LMS. I came into Last Worlds, like everyone is sleeping on this region, and like Flash Wolves especially are going to crush. And I'm the opposite this time around. I think that MSI, they had such an impressive showing once again. They took that first seed for themselves. They started really building that story up. And then I watched pretty much the whole of this split for the LMS. And I've honestly been pretty disappointed. I think AHQ comes out of the LMS as the best team. I think Flash Wolves really have slumped. I think that the jungle pool's moved away from Caster a little bit. Maple's not having the best time. So I think that, LMS fans, they should be hopeful that now that AHQ is in the group that they are in, that they can get a team out of groups, but it's not going to be nearly the success story that last year's World was.
Jet, you want to tackle North America?
Yeah, well, one thing I do actually want to say, and it's kind of jumping off of Spawn's point, I do feel like there are some top-heavy strengths in the regions here at Worlds. You look at EDG, Rox, and TSM, and those guys are like very clearly the strongest teams from those regions. And we disagree on RNG, but like I agree with them that RNG is much worse than EDG right now. I just think they can get better a little bit later. You look at North America, I think all of the hopes are on TSM. They got placed into the hardest group. So like there is a potential that NA completely falls flat on their face and doesn't make it out of groups. Because if Flash Wolves actually shows up despite slumping, if Road is super elite and the rest of IMA can come together, you might not have Cloud9 coming out of Group B, and CLG, I already had them as underdogs in Group A. So like there's a potential that none of them make it out. With that being said, there are a lot of close matchups here with North America. I do think TSM is favored. I was joking with these guys during the actual show itself when they all predicted Cloud9 to get out of the group, and I was like, nah, Flash Wolves. But I probably favor Cloud9 a little bit in that group just because of their recent performance. COG I don't favor, but 2 out of 3, but contentious 2 out of 3. I think NA is very top-heavy, and if TSM fails, it's disaster once again.
Should I take Korea?
Yeah, go for it. I mean, the last thing I was going to say on this was that I interviewed Jensen. Jensen was claiming Cloud9 really close to TSM. Do you not feel that way?
I think during the finals they were relatively competitive, and I think leading up to it, yeah, they were pretty close. But I think if you based on the results and the expectations, TSM is just way higher. They're the #1 seed. They only lost to Phoenix 1 the entire year, so they're completely undefeated against playoff teams. Extremely close to matching EDG's undefeated record. And yes, I do think Cloud9's good, but I think TSM beats them like 8 times out of 10.
Korea.
So obviously a few years ago when Korea lost so many players, we were kind of like, oh, every other region can now catch up and kind of match Korea. Didn't happen at all. So I don't think
this year.
No, I don't think it's going to happen this year either. I think we had our chance, we didn't take it. So right now Korea comes in with the 2 best teams, even though SKT has so many question marks due to a very weak jungler. First of all, maybe some issues also with like Faker again being a little bit over aggressive because he's trying too hard to carry on his own. But SKT is a team that when they have time on a patch and over a tournament, who just adapts really well, prepares really well. So like, yeah, they might, have a little bit of 1 or 2 shaky games in groups, but then once they get out in BU5s, they're going to be fantastic. So I think Rox Tigers and SKT are the heavy favorites to obviously go all the way to a final, which is the standard. Samsung is the one I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on. A lot of people are like, because it's not KT, we don't really think they're going to be that great. Watching them play, when they are ahead, they are really good at closing out games. They also do punish mistakes, which is what a lot of teams from other regions make a lot of. EDG, they do make a lot of mistakes as well. Like, they can't be punished by Samsung. They do definitely make a lot of mistakes. And Crown, to me, is one of the best mid laners in Korea who really will show up. So I think Samsung actually comes in as like a top 5, top 6 team in the world as well.
I think it's really weird as well because, we're used to this methodical beast that is Korea, and they do punish all these mistakes. But now you've got teams like the Tigers as well as Samsung that do it at a much higher pace than Korea ever has done in the past, at least in my opinion. Korea's always been good at shutting you out of a game and not letting you back in, but these teams do it in 27 to 30 minutes now. And I really do like the pace at which Samsung play the game. So I think that in that regard, when they're ahead, they play very, very aggressively. But in saying that, they can also drag games out if they're behind, which is dangerous internationally.
Yeah.
Almost stole the mic there. I'm sorry. I didn't mean
that's
to do
right.
that. No, yeah.
Your mercy.
Like Samsung during the split actually played like super long, boring games. Nothing happened. Go to late game, and it was like, I hate this team. Like CJ as well. Oh my god, watching them for like, yeah, CJ lost the games, thank God. But like watching them for 50 minutes doing nothing was awful. Samsung though in the gauntlet especially changed up that style. Yeah. Much more early game focus. Much better to watch now.
And I think that the reason we talk about playoffs and gauntlet so much is that dramatic change that came through. So in a way, regular season tells us, about fortitude, about preparation and a lot of those things. But the game is in such a different landscape right now that you can't really take regular season tendencies into these games unless they're individual players out playing, right? So the way that they play the game in the gauntlet, that high tempo, get ahead, really push Cuvée to get the counter pick in the top lane and exploit a part of the map that we haven't really seen in a while. I do think that is something that, is much more relevant than how they were playing their regular season games.
Yeah, and I also just kind of want to add, when you're thinking about the Korean teams here at Worlds, like, I think during the Facebook Live segment, Spawn said something about EDG being a dark horse, and I was like, dude, you can't call a dark horse like a top 3 team, but in a sense, they would be, because if a Korean team doesn't win Worlds, that's a shocking result. So, like, there are legitimately Rox and SKT, and then the field, as far as deciding who's, like, to watch at Worlds.
Anyone want to say anything about the wildcard teams at all? Or are they just too much of a wild card?
I think, once again, we have a Brazilian team, and this is the second time in a row, if you count All-Stars and things like that, the hard random now, Albus, Nox, Luna has come through. They have some really good players. I think that some of the players that these teams are going to bring, people are going to love watching. Revolta, he's really, really fun to watch out of the jungle. Kira and Lacrit from Albus, Nox, Luna, they're fantastic to watch in mid lane and support. The problem with the wildcard has always been that they just can't bring 5 players across the map together. So in certain areas, they match up incredibly well. But overall, they just don't have the strength in the lineup to even get their team play going. And I do think that the gap between wildcard and major regions this year actually opened back up. Last year it converged a little bit. This year it diverged back out. So I don't think they're going to spoil. But in saying that, they got the 2 wide open groups where you're either a top or bottom. So if you do spoil games, it makes the groups a lot closer, and maybe they can kaboom another team, or maybe they even sneak a couple of wins like Pain did next year. It would be shocking if they made it out of group stages.
Again, I did it. Sorry, I'm not good with the mic here.
No, it's good.
You just said kaboom. I actually just realized that Group A right now is a bit like the group we had with Alliance back in 2014, where we have the Brazilian team, we have the American team, we have the Korean team, and then the number 1 European seed. So kaboom will not happen again. Guaranteed. G2 is way better than Alliance ever was. So I'm just going to say that right now. But if it does happen, go back to this clip and call me an idiot.
But Albus Nox is way better than Kaboom was as well. I mean, you can't play that game.
Oh, I know. We got Albus. Sorry, I thought it was INTC we had from here. It's close. It's a wildcard team. It's sadly not a Brazilian team, so it doesn't 100% fit.
Very good. Okay, well, at the end of last year's version of this little show that we did, I asked for bold predictions. Deficio, you actually have a bone to pick with some of the fans based on your bold prediction.
So last year, my bold prediction was that IG, who was in the Fnatic AHQ C9 group, would not make it out and actually be last place in that group. And I had a lot of people who were angry about that one. Turns out IG went last in that group. Dead last. They sucked.
So bad.
They were really bad.
I remember that. I just didn't remember your prediction.
So that was the bold prediction. I had another one about Fnatic making final or something, but we don't care about that.
All right, so bold predictions this year. Something crazy, something that you think could happen that would go against sort of the groupthink or the community love. Something that you'll get flamed for, but ultimately maybe have some justification for later. I'll let you guys think about it for a second.
So these are. Do you remember what one was last year? I actually don't remember.
I don't
some
remember
crazy
yours
ones.
Either, but they were crazy.
So you could make a bold prediction that no one in North America will make it out of groups.
Okay.
So
is that your bold prediction? You can't say you could. You have to own this, chat. Is that your prediction or not?
No. That's not my prediction.
Yeah, it's not a safe one to make because that becomes the headline of this video and then everyone hates you.
My bold prediction is G2 makes semifinals.
Okay. Yes. Wow, that is a bold prediction. That seems more like a Deficio prediction, but...
The trend this year is that you degradate your own region and talk up another one.
All right. Yeah. There we go. All right. Understood.
Me? You?
I don't have one yet, so go you.
All right. Bold prediction. Both LMS teams end last in their groups.
That's bold.
That is bold. It's a bold prediction, guys. I'm not saying it's going to happen. It's a bold prediction.
Not the most bold, but kind of
That
bold.
is the most bold. That's
That's
INTC
really bold. That's
taking
INTC
down
being ahead of
AHQ.
HQ.
That's fair. Okay.
That is bold.
I'm going to say my bold prediction is that could go to a tiebreaker with SKT for top seed in Group B. I'm just looking at the teams, and I've been staring at this group all day. And the scary thing is I didn't even pick IMA to make it out. But my bold prediction is that they tie for top seed, have to go to a tiebreaker, and lose in a tremendous fashion, but that they will split with SKT and then go similar throughout the group's phase.
It's funny how predictions work sometimes. It's like, oh, I don't think that this person's going to make it out of groups, but they could in a very crazy way, right?
The reason I say that is because if I may win, it's because people can't play their style of League of Legends. And if the group can't play their style of League of Legends, they're in deep trouble because I may play some weird, wacky stuff.
Well, anyway, it's the end of the interview here. I always give people a chance to say anything that you guys want to say to any of the fans at home that are thinking about watching Worlds, or just watch the group draw show, or are down about their region going in against Rocks Tigers, anything along those lines.
I think that what Jatt brought up is really true, and I'm going to extend it to Europe, that everyone has kind of a hope now. TSM is a huge hope. G2, if they get it together and have a good performance, can do it as well. EDG, I don't want to jinx them, but they should have a good performance this time around. And then, Rocks, SKT, and even Flash Wolves and AHQ. So I think that this time around, not to go towards a regionalism thing, but I think that people should really be backing the TSMs, even if they do pull an SKT or Rocks, because if we don't get them this year, in saying that, if the Western teams don't get them this year, this is the best we have ever been heading into a Worlds, in my opinion.
I would say with TSM, I agree. It is the best I've ever looked coming into a World Championship. So definitely, to me, it's like Fnatic of last year, where it's support Fnatic, because if the West does really well, they kind of show the way. Origin obviously also did fantastic there, and we got 2 teams in top 4. No, but for everyone watching Europe and they're down on Europe and so on, I think people underestimating G2 is super weird to me. They haven't lost a single series in Europe. Now, you guys highlighted with TSM almost doing it and EDG doing it. They didn't lose a single series in Europe. They dominated the final as well. This team have some of the absolute best players in the West. If you look at Trick, Sven, Mithi. If Perks could actually get his stuff together, he can be up there, but he's not there right now. So these guys have insanely skilled players, and I think G2 actually will go in and surprise people at this tournament. I think they will be a very strong team. I'm not saying they're straight up TSM level.
Would you predict them to go to the semifinals in a bold fashion?
Depending on how the first seed in some of the other groups turns out, they could get a quarterfinal against, let's just say it's G2 TSM in a quarterfinal. That could be awesome.
I just love that now Deficio is doing to the whole of the world what he has been doing to me all week. This is fantastic. You watch this 5 times, you're going to be a G2 believer as well.
You got to believe in the players. At least you got to believe in the players. They have some insane players, and every other European team, I think H2K has a chance of making it out for sure of their group. I don't think Splice have, a big chance at all, sadly.
People also like to plug content at the end of your interviews. I would say keep an eye out for Worlds group guides, group previews. I did a couple last year. Now we have various other analysts doing them as well, so that'll be cool. And we're bringing top 20 players at Worlds back, but it's going to be better than last year.
Okay.
You might want to explain a little bit more there.
Yeah. We are doing the top 20 players at Worlds, and then we're going to do some reveals about it. It'll be fun.
Wow, down on the LoL esports stuff. It's going to be better because we're doing it this year, is what Jatt's saying.
No, dude, it's just we've been improving it, and I'm really excited that we are going to get to show our individual opinions on the top 20 players.
Rapid iteration with these things, Travis.
Will the group draw breakdowns that you did, will those be on TwitLonger this year, Jatt? That's the biggest question that I have.
I was actually planning on publishing them with a series of tweets.
Okay.
So it's roughly 6,000 characters. That's about 37 tweets. No, I believe they will be on all esports.
Okay. That's better than TwitLonger. A little bit, but definitely better than TwitLonger. Thank you guys so much for sitting down with me after doing so much conversation about these groups. If you guys at least don't have in your mind what you think is going to happen after all this analysis for the last couple hours, I don't know what it will. But thank you so much for this, guys. Really appreciate it. And stay tuned for more coverage leading up to Worlds here at Yahoo Esports.